the doctor comes over and she's got a very serious look on her face, and she tells me that I have proctosigmoiditis, and they're sending me home with a box of Rawasa. It's a mesalamine enema. Said, you got to do this every night. And I was like, do what every night? So she told me what I had to do. And I said, okay, well, how long do I have to do that for? And she looked at me. She said, forever. And that they also told me to fill a prescription for the tablets and take those every day. And I told my husband to pick them up. And he called on his way home, and I said, so did you pick them up? And he said, no. I said, why? He said, because they cost $1,500. Getting the information packet and talking to you guys was very enlightening, in that, no, your body is not attacking itself. I used an e-bike, and there were times when I thought, I wish I was on a road bike, because I felt it. But yeah, the fact that I could just be out there on a bike for hours at a time. I had my first sort of doctor's appointment just recently, and they had all my old medications there, and they're like, okay, so you need to update your medication list. And I said, yeah, I'm taking nothing. No medication. I walk my dogs in the morning. On the weekends, I'll go for an hour. I climbed a mountain yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to worry about it.
Give this video a thumbs up if you know what it's like to live with IBD, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. This channel is designed to help people recover from colitis, Crohn's, and any other form of IBD. You can always head to our website, highcarbhealth.com, for a free 30-minute consultation from anywhere in the world. And remember, there is a life after colitis. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of IBD Heal, a podcast brought to you by High Carb Health. I'm your host, Shakul, and today we are joined by Sloane, who is healed from ulcerative colitis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And Sloane's got a really fascinating story, and we're really, really grateful that you're able to join and share how you've been able to heal with all of us and the audience. And so to start off with, Sloane, let's kind of talk about how this all began for you. How did you realize that you had symptoms, and what made you think, oh, something's not quite right here?
Yeah. So I was in a bit of a transition with my career. I was a sole proprietor architect working alone, and I had somebody contact me who wanted me to join their firm as a principal. So it would be two of us owning a firm with some employees. So it was a little bit of a stressful time just trying to figure that out. But I started having sort of urgency and mucus in my stool, and sometimes tinged with a little bit of blood. And it took a month or two for me to really kind of start thinking, I think I better call my doctor to talk about this. My husband is a doctor, so at one point I grabbed him and said, look, this is not normal. And he said, yeah, you should call your doctor. So I did, and she scheduled a colonoscopy. And so at this point, it was pretty annoying. I had started this new job, and I had to run to the bathroom like 5 times a day. And so it was definitely, by the time I had the colonoscopy, I was definitely like, thank goodness I'm getting this checked out. So I had the procedure, and I'm lying in the recovery room, and the doctor comes over, and she's got a very serious look on her face. And she tells me that I have proctosigmoiditis, and they're sending me home with a box of Rawasa. It's a mesalamine enema. Said, you got to do this every night. And I was like, do what every night? So she told me what I had to do. And I said, okay, well, how long do I have to do that for? And she looked at me. She said, forever. And I was just like totally blown away that I was like, wait, because I, fairly healthy. I've always ate pretty well. I had dabbled in, being vegan, and even, whole food plant-based. Wasn't strict, but, exercise all the time. So I was just like, wait, this can't be happening. And that they also told me to fill a prescription for the tablets and take those every day. And I told my husband to pick them up, and he called on his way home, and I said, so did you pick them up? And he said, no. I said, why? He said, because they cost $1,500. And I said, what? So it's super expensive. So I had a follow-up appointment with with a new doctor, which is a gastroenterologist, and a different one that did the colonoscopy, but he would be my regular gastro doc. And I went into the office, and so I said, so, do I need to eat a certain diet? He said, no, food has nothing to do with it. And I said, well, how about stress? Because I just started this new job. And he said, no, I have patients that are all into meditation and everything. It makes no difference. He said, make sure you have good health insurance the rest of your life, because this is a very expensive disease. And let me know if you have any questions. So at that point, I was like, well, I don't like this very much. It's like you feel completely out of control, that suddenly your body's doing things that no matter what you think you can do, the experts are telling you there's nothing you can do. That you have to be, depending on medications, and good luck. So that was in 2018. So I was 52 years old. So I thought, okay, this is it. This is what I have to do. There were other tests that I had to do, blood tests, testing inflammation and calprotectin, stool samples, all of that stuff. And it all seemed, once I got on the mesalamine, everything seemed to be okay, but I could never quite ever ramp it down and get off it. I would always have symptoms creep back. Fairly mild symptoms, but still concerning. People, you have people talk about, if you have inflammation there, you're going to get colon cancer if you don't stay on top of it. And so you're afraid of ever having symptoms, because you think that's going to mean doom later. So, so for 4 years, I was basically using both the enema, and the enema I would do not every day. After the symptoms subsided, I tapered off, and then I just do them when I felt like symptoms were creeping back. But it's a terrible thing to have to do. It's not fun. And I just didn't want that to be in my future anymore. And then the pills were fine. I actually tolerated them quite fine. But again, taking medication every day, and looking into it, there were only studies about people taking them for 12 months and nothing more than that. And so I've been on them for 4 years. I was like, I have no idea what these are doing. And then symptoms, I think in the late summer of 2022, the symptoms were just showing up a little bit more than I would have liked. And I remember going to my niece's wedding, and it just was not, it wasn't anything drastic, but I would have to get to the bathroom every 20 minutes, not 20 minutes, every 2 hours, just to make sure everything was okay. And I thought, just I'm tired of this. There has to be something different. And I had been following, different people on Instagram and listening to podcasts, and I had seen High Carb Health, with Dr. Clapper, and showing up at some of these events that sort of ran in the circles that I was, trying to look for ways of beating this that were more holistic and had more to do with food, because there started to be more about your microbiome and eating the right things to support it. So, Will Bolshewitz read his book, and then there's another gastroenterologist, Robin Schutkin. So um, they had some ideas, but they didn't. It wasn't as pointed towards ulcerative colitis. Like definitively, yes, we can cure this. But High Carb Health had much more information, and I listened to all the testimonials and thought, what do I have to lose? I want to do this. So in October of 2022, I signed up with High Carb Health, and I took it upon myself. I just stopped my medication, all of it. And I wasn't just taking stuff for ulcerative colitis. I was taking a lot of other medications, like something for my migraines. I was taking amitriptyline, just a low dose of that. I was taking some supplements, magnesium, vitamin D, and it was a lot. And I had this pill box that, I was taking a bunch of pills every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's no fun, as you said, even though yours wasn't a severe case, it impacts your life in such a strong way that you cannot have peace around what's going to happen. You cannot be sure, as you said, you're at a wedding and you're just constantly worried. You can't enjoy the event, can you? Because you're constantly worried about what's going to happen. What if this happens? What if that happens? And it's like a prison sentence where you feel hopeless, and the whole system makes you feel hopeless about it too, which doesn't help. And I think it's important to share with people, this is what this channel is all about, and this is why we do what we do, is to give you hope that you don't have to be stuck for the rest of your life, and there is a way out of it. And so what did you learn when you got the initial information pack, when you decided you want to join up? And talk to the audience about how the body heals from ulcerative colitis.
Yeah, so it was interesting because the doctors were like, "Oh, your body's attacking itself, and it's going to continue to do that." Getting the information packet and talking to you guys was very enlightening, in that no, your body is not attacking itself. It's gone. It's reacting to inputs that don't work for it, and so it's a message. It's a message that there have been toxins and the food behaviors that don't serve our digestive system. And so this was how it came out in my body, that it was trying to rid itself of those toxins, and this is where it came out in my system. And looking at what I was doing for years and years, that alcohol, I didn't drink a lot of alcohol, but over 50 years, or I guess you would say 30 years, from age 20 on, you're constantly at any occasion drinking a glass of wine or beer or whatever, over and over and over. And then all the medications, just the pesticides and things, cleaning supplies, all of it. Now that I've read more and more and more about it, of course, your body's going to say, okay, enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you started the whole process, so you mentioned that you stopped your medication straight away, which we don't recommend, by the way.
Yeah, which I probably shouldn't have done.
We'd recommend that you kind of talk to us first, and then kind of work out a way to taper those medications off, and ideally in collaboration with your medical team. But Shamiz did the same thing. We find out this information, you find out what's this stuff's doing to you, and you don't want this poison entering your body anymore. And it's quite exciting to think, okay, well, maybe I can get off these medications. But if you're out there and you want to stop your medications, don't do it on your own. Talk to your medical team, have a chat to us, and we'll kind of guide you through it. But how did your body react to that? And then talked about the healing process and the detoxification process.
Yeah. I totally agree. Don't do that, because
Mm,
yeah, it would have been a gentler process for me had I
mm,
tapered the medication off.
mm,
Um, so, so initially, yeah, the symptoms come roaring back.
mm,
Um, but I also, and I shared this with Shukul. I have one of those body sensors that tracks your heart rate and all of that.
mm,
Within a couple weeks of um, eating as cleanly as they ask you to eat,
mm,
my health indicators went way up, even
mm,
though I was having symptoms. The fact that I suddenly stopped um, the medication and also eating oil and alcohol, caffeine,
mm,
all of that really showed up in my stats, which
mm,
was amazing. They stayed up. It wasn't like a
mm,
little blip.
mm.
It suddenly my level went from here to here and stayed
Yeah.
there.
That's actually a really interesting point you make, because you are experiencing more symptoms, and it's quite easy to think, oh my God, this is making me feel worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to go through that cleansing process. You got to go through that detox
Yeah.
process. And so as the body removes the toxins, you're actually getting healthier. But initially it feels like it's getting worse
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
getting more symptoms. And so, we always talk about short-term grief for long-term relief. And so you have to go through a bit of a process. And again,
Yeah.
it's really important to have some guidance, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's really hard to know what's okay and what's
Yes.
not. So talk about how those symptoms ramped up and what you were experiencing.
Yeah. So, and I continued working through this process. I did have to tell my
Mm.
staff that I was going to do this thing, and I did have to make sure they understood why I was losing weight,
Mm.
so they wouldn't worry.
Mm.
And I said, and when I say I have to go to the bathroom, get out of my way, because I'm going. Don't like try to talk to me while I'm, which, if you have a question, hold it. Just you have to be really real with people
You
that
do.
you're experiencing something and you're trying to do something important. So,
Mm.
and that they're all good with that. But yeah, so the urgency came back. Um, However, it wasn't prior to starting the process before I was diagnosed. The urgency was there, and it was, you would run to the bathroom, but nothing would happen. Like, it wasn't urgency with any kind of outcome.
Mm.
So it during the healing phase, there was more outcome. There was, you actually did have a bowel movement with the urgency, but you really had the
Mm.
urgency that
Mm.
you needed to get to the bathroom,
Mm.
and just make sure that I was in a good situation with work. The bathroom was very close by. It was very easy.
Mm.
Well, see, in like other jobs may not be so easy to
Mm.
like have to run to the bathroom, but I have a job where I'm working on the computer and things like that, and your body does know. It worried me greatly. I talked to Shukul about it. Like, I would have to go on site visits. I'm an architect, so you have to go on site, and there's
Mm.
usually not much in the form of bathrooms on a site.
Mm.
And so I was really worried I'd have to spend an hour out there, but your body kind of knows. And so I never had an issue when I
Mm.
had a meeting like that, even though I would be really worried every time.
Mm.
But that was okay. And yeah, so it was ups and downs of how much urgency.
Mm.
Sometimes it was like your body wanted to get rid of something.
Mm.
And there were times when you're on the toilet and you're going, and then it's like your whole body just wants to expel. That was totally new to me. So
Mm.
that felt like a detox, definitely. So there were periods of time of like waves of that would come. Waves being like every month or so, I'd have that experience, and then it would get better, and then then it would go into another. So it took a good 6 months before I started feeling like I was getting a real handle on it, and then another month or so of still like, because you think, oh, okay, I'm all better. And then you'll eat something, and not something drastic, but something that's probably not so great. Like, I think I'll have a bunch of tofu tonight. And you haven't had tofu for 6 months. And that might not go terribly well. I mean, it's not huge, a huge thing, but symptoms will come back a little bit. And then I'm someone who likes to eat a lot when I eat. So, I had to teach myself to go easy.
That reintroduction process after you heal or you're close to healing is really, really important. And it's very crucial to take your time and not rush anything, because you haven't been exposed to these particular foods or these fibers for a space of time. And so to give a big lot of that, or like a large amount of that at one go, when your body's not used to dealing with that, or your bacteria in your bowel aren't used to fermenting that fiber, you may not have the right flora for it, and that can cause issues as well. So you've got to slowly introduce it, bring back the microbiome to deal with that effectively, and then you can have bigger volumes as you get more and more accustomed to it. So and it can be tempting kind of when you feel good. Okay, well, this is healthy, and so I should be able to eat it. And yes, and you can, and you should, but you have to build up to that.
And the food is great. It did take a little. I'm a foodie, so it took a little bit of getting used to at first. Like, I missed so many things, but then it was really easy, because you have a limited amount of things that you can eat. And so it was just easy to make dinner when I got home, because I had the potatoes and the vegetables, and it was just very simple. I wasn't having to like make some recipe or whatever. So, and then you start craving those things, because your whole system is there to deal with those things, and it wants more of those. So don't be afraid of the fact that the food gets narrowed down, because it makes your life simpler, and you start craving those things anyway. So they're delicious.
Absolutely. And you give your body a reset as well. So you reset, you're resetting your microbiome, you're resetting your taste buds, which is a huge deal, because when you go back to the simpler foods and you reset your taste buds, and you remove all those things that were affecting in the first place, or that were numbing your taste, the flavor of the food, suddenly when you introduce something else, you actually taste it for what it is. Do you remember that experience?
Yes, definitely. And so that you're paring it down to its essential, like just broccoli, nothing. And suddenly, you're tasting just the broccoli, and it's delicious. Same with the potatoes. I mean, just a plain potato is amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And so as you went through that process, so if I remember correctly, you had increased symptoms with blood and mucus, and it took a little while, they kind of eased off reasonably quickly to, being comfortable, but you still had little bits of, like your stool sometimes was harder to pass, or, you'd still see blood in the stool, you'd still see mucus in the stool. And as you said, that lasted almost up to 6 months before it was clearing. After that process happened and you felt better, what did that feel like? And then talk about, what you did after you finished the healing process.
So, it's a slow progression. It doesn't like happen overnight. So just you slowly ramp down, the number of times you have to have a bowel movement just slows down a little bit. But realizing that a healthy frequency is, 2 or 3 times a day. So it's okay to go 2 or 3 times a day, because we're eating so much bulk. It has to has to come out. So,
Mm.
um, so getting used to that, because other people don't understand that. When you eat a lot of fiber and fruit and everything else, it's going to go through you, and it just, you can tell, it's just you feel like you're cleaning yourself out. That it's that it's things are working properly. You know, things are smooth and not you feel like when you go, you're finished. You're not like something still waiting. So, and then, you know, I did a bunch of traveling when I was at the around 6-month level. And that is a whole nother thing. I actually got pretty good at it. You prep stuff before you go. I would bring with me a whole bunch of dates, a whole bunch of grapes. I would I air fry Japanese sweet potatoes, so I'd have a big bag of those, because those are super filling and delicious. Even, you know, out of your backpack, you know, 4 hours after you've left home. And then I'd scope out all the restaurants before I got there. And for example, I went to San Francisco and I Googled the best vegan restaurant in San Francisco, which was a very, you know, a small joint, but really clean. And I just would order. So I was at a conference, so I was really busy going to these workshops every day. And I would just order this bowl of it was soup with steamed vegetables and rice noodles, and they would deliver through Grubhub. So I just have them deliver that every night. It was delicious. There was a Whole Foods down the road, so I stocked up on bananas and mangoes and had those in my hotel room. So you just figure it out. Yeah, every now and then you might want to, you know, go out to dinner with someone, but you know, again, look at the restaurant, get the side dishes of vegetables. It's you. So yeah, that actually worked out well. And I've been to other venues as well, doing the same thing. Just, you have to look, you know, plan ahead, look what's out there, look where it's the grocery stores, and stocking up on fruit in the morning, which is huge, because breakfast can be a landmine, especially when you're at a conference or something. It's all like pastries and bagels.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah, you got to be very careful about what you put in your mouth at some of these venues. And the best thing I find, you know, you're just talking about travel, was that I remember you were saying that, oh, Shakul, you know, it was a few months into the program, I've got this trip booked to Italy. It was Italy?
yeah.
Am I correct?
Oh, yes, Italy. Yes.
And you're like, do you think I can make it? I was like, you know, if you believe you can, you can. And, you know, I think you got, just as you were about to leave, you finished off, you know, your symptoms were gone and you're feeling good. And talk about what your life is like now, and then how it was to be able to go to Italy. I think you went on a bit of a bike trip, and just to have that freedom, not to have to worry as much about what, you know, what was going on with your bowels.
Yeah. So knowing that you've come through this healing process, that it's not, I'm going to eat one thing and suddenly it's all going to get wiped away and I'm going to be back at square one. It's you've healed, you know, and looking at it like your gut flora, your microbiome, that you've rebuilt basically your microbiome. So that, just thinking about it that way is helpful, because when I went to Italy, and it was still hard, because I've been to Italy before, and, you know, it was a whole different experience, drinking the wine, eating the pasta, you know, I had to shift, or in the coffee. I had to really decide the other things that I was going to be excited about. The vegetables that, like, I was in Sicily, so they grow a lot of vegetables there, and they taste so much better than a lot of the vegetables here, because they're grown there in soil. that has been growing those vegetables for so long, and they just have a richer flavor. So I was able to appreciate other things that really gave me joy being there. So the roasted vegetables, the markets, and then of course the architecture and the art. So, it definitely was a mind, a mind shift that, because everyone talks about the wine and the coffee, and it is amazing, those things, but there are other things that are just as amazing that you can enjoy.
Yeah, I find that when you don't put all, because I think in society now we end up putting too much attention on food when it comes to social events and going places, and it's all about, okay, what am I going to eat? And you kind of forget about the experience of other things that are there. And I think when you simplify your diet and you just taper down on that sole focus on what you're going to eat, you start to appreciate the other things, like the nature, and as you said, the architecture. That's something of interest to you. Going and being able to exercise and go on the bike rides and do those things. Those are things that really excite us. And when we go to new countries, trying to find out, okay, what type of fruits do they grow, and what are some of the interesting fruits we can try, and those kind of things are also quite exciting. So you do have to shift your perspective of that. It's still just because you're not doing those same things that you found enjoyable previously doesn't mean there's not other things that are exciting that you can pick up and take on when you travel.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Because there was also, in the biking itself, I did, I used an e-bike, and there were times when I thought, I wish I was on a road bike, because I felt it. But it was, the fact that I could just be out there on a bike for hours at a time. And then, and even when you stop and use a bathroom, it's not the most, you're at a what they call a bar. It's a cafe, and it's just the fact that I could navigate all of that and it was fine was amazing. Yeah,
that's great. So what is your life like now that you've kind of gotten through? You're not taking any medications now. You're symptom free.
Yeah, I had my first sort of doctor's appointment just recently, and they had all my old medications there, and they're like, okay, so you need to update your medication list. And I said, yeah, I'm taking nothing. No medication. Well, the only supplement I take is B12.
Yes.
So, it's so freeing. I mean, you forget, like, you don't have to lug this little pack of pills around. It's pretty great. And I don't have, I walk my dogs in the morning. On the weekends, I'll go for an hour. I climbed a mountain yesterday. Didn't have to worry about it. Just the, normal fact that you do have to use the bathroom every now and then, but nothing that makes me tense and anxious. And and I feel so much more energetic than I ever did. Stopping drinking coffee. I used to be a coffee drinker, but my energy level is constant the whole day. I don't get that 3 o'clock, like, oh my God, I'm going to die, coffee. So that's pretty amazing. And again, all these things are sort of gradual. And then suddenly you're like, wait a minute, I don't feel tired in the afternoon. I can keep my work level up, the whole day. And I sleep. The other things, we're talking a lot about food. I really have to focus on my sleep, making sure I got to bed at a reasonable time. And trying to make sure I got at least 7 hours of sleep, if not more. And started doing more yoga, concentrating on my breath. As women, we tend to hold our stomachs in a lot. And I started learning how to breathe down into my stomach and relax it a little bit in the mornings. That's really important to get your bowels moving and not, not always trying to hold your stomach in. That was an interesting realization that that as females we just taught to, like, oh, flat stomach, hold your stomach in, and it's detrimental to
Mm.
your bowels moving the way they should.
I've
Um,
never thought. Obviously, I've never thought about that, but I've
yeah,
never had someone explain it in that way. That's actually very interesting. So yeah,
yeah,
people,
I think,
especially
yeah,
women out there, if you're doing this
yeah.
subconsciously or consciously, then maybe think about that. That's a very
Mhm.
interesting observation that you've come up with.
Yeah, and it was the yoga that really, the breath work that
Mm.
sort of made me realize that, because they breathe down and into your, so your stomach goes out, and as women,
Mm.
we never want our stomachs to go out. And so for me, I mean, I'm sure there are women out there that are less vain, but yeah, it's just something that's just, I don't know. It was an interesting realization. And so in the
Mm.
mornings, I drink my water, because I drink a big, jug of water in the morning, and I try to breathe.
Mm.
And that just gets things going so that I can have a bowel movement in the morning.
Mm.
And yeah, it's it's like a whole new sort of way of paying attention to my
Mm.
body.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's
I'm just curious, what does your husband think of everything that you've achieved? Medical professional.
good question. He's older than I am, so he never learned about nutrition,
Yeah.
and he's very resistant to the whole thing.
Hmm.
And I think he's glad, but he doesn't like to talk about it so much because he doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, so yeah. So
That's
we
fair enough.
eat different dinners.
Okay.
He's
And
on a lot of medication.
is he okay?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you never know what'll happen as time goes on. So just to kind of finish off the whole story, I mean, obviously Shamiz and I are super proud of what you've been able to achieve, and I was, really glad that we'll be able to be a part of your journey and be there to guide you through that and get that result that you're so, it's so important to everyone that if you can get off your medications and not have your symptoms, it just makes life so much better. And what I want you to do, and I ask everyone to do this because everyone has a different perspective on this, is to give some advice to people that are watching. So if someone's
Mm.
watching this and they're going through it and they're not sure what they want to do, um, what would you tell them based on your own experience of healing?
I would say that having a coach guide you through it
Hmm.
is essential, because even with a coach, it's you feel like, oh my God, is this normal? Am I,
Hmm.
oh, it's not going to work for me. It's,
Hmm.
it will help. Everyone else went through it, but it's not going to work for me. You just have these doubts along the way, and it's really helpful to have a coach. And, for this kind of um, ulcerative colitis, it's I mean, it's almost because the doctors just have no other options that you've got to find a different way. I mean,
Hmm.
of course, it's has to do with what you're putting in your body. Um,
Hmm.
and I would strongly encourage, anyone going through it to at least reach out and have a conversation.
Hmm.
Um, it's really, you have nothing to lose, trying to beat it with your own um, lifestyle changes, because they're powerful,
Hmm.
very powerful, those changes that you can make, and your body will respond. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and much more powerful than any type of medication that they can ever come up with. Because
Right.
once you learn how the body heals itself, then you realize, okay, medication can't actually heal me in any case. It's only going to dampen my symptoms or suppress my symptoms, and actually, in essence, it's stopping your body from doing that work that it wants to do. And so every time your body wants to heal and create those symptoms and remove those toxins, we take the medication and then we stop that. So yeah, it's just as you said, like a different perspective on how things operate and when you can understand that and then you put that into practice, and then the theory and the practice, show those results, you think, okay, I'm onto it. I've got it now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you very much for sharing and coming on and giving your time to talk about how you've been able to heal yourself. This is my favorite part of the show. Sloane, you now have a life after colitis. Congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much for doing what you do, because it's life-changing for so many people. So it's much appreciated on our end as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for us, it's such a pleasure. And after what Shamiz went through, just, we
Yeah.
were like, if we can help one person, not have to go through what he has, then that'll be great. But it's
Yeah.
yeah, to be able to, I feel really blessed, to be honest, to be able to, do what I do and have an impact on so many people's lives, and, just, yeah, it's
And I think,
fulfilling.
yeah, the one other thing that I do want to say is
Mm,
it is a slow process. It's not, we're so used to medications that are supposed to work immediately,
mm-hmm.
and that's not the way your body works. So I think that
No.
that's important for people to realize, that it's not going to be
Yeah.
super fast, but you have
Yeah,
to have patience,
you do.
um,
You do.
and it will get better. Yeah,
It will, yeah. Just time, patience, commitment, and
yeah,
dedication, and just trusting your body that it knows what it's doing. And if you do that
yeah,
long enough, it has to heal.
yep,
If it has the
yep,
opportunity to heal, it will. That's,
yep.
there's some very rare cases where it can get too far, but it's rare, extremely rare. And, in our experience, you, you know, you've got to have had that for huge amounts of time, and there's got to be lots of
Mm.
different complications before it gets to that point. But yeah. Uh, for everyone watching, here you go. Here's another story of someone who's healed themselves and got off their medications and doesn't have any symptoms. And if Sloane can do it, so can you. So what are you waiting for? If you've really enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are listening or watching on Spotify or YouTube, please share this with as many people as you can, because the more people that know about this, the more impact we can have and get people healed and off their medications for life. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel or our Spotify podcast, please do so you get updated on all our future episodes and testimonials just like this one. And if you have any questions about what Sloane's been through, there's a comment section down there. So feel free to ask and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Apart from that, Sloane, I'd like to thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And for everyone watching, make sure you eat plants and lots of them. Take care.